Shackleton-Jones, and you know where he is because I tagged him in the last post that I made. And we're going to be talking about AI and the dark side of AI technology. So let's do it. Michael, hit the live when you're ready.
It's on, bruv.
Happy days. Okay, welcome everyone everywhere to another installment of the Elite Thinking Club. I'm Jules, Julien. I'm joined tonight with my co-hosts Liz Barker and Michael Houchen. You guys all right?
Hey, yeah,
Always
all
good.
Yes, and we are joined for part 2 of a previous episode with Nick Shackleton-Jones. All right, Nick?
Good to see you.
Yeah, man. Welcome back. Really, really happy to have you back for part 2. Right, so let's literally continue where we left off. It's the dark side of technology and AI. Okay, so Nick made a post on TikTok and it sparked my interest. So I messaged him and said, would you mind coming on the Elite Thinking Club to do a show or an episode with us about it, right? And we did that episode, but we were so getting involved into it that we had to do a part 2 because we actually hadn't finished talking about it. So I'm going to, in summary, highlight what Nick mentioned in that TikTok video, and then once you've watched this one, if you want to, go and watch the first one so you can get up to speed, or go and watch that one and then come back, watch this one, whatever your preference. Right, so technology has created an alternative to real-world relationships, allowing people to meet their needs digitally. This is creating a self-centered attitude in people and reducing their inclination to build meaningful relationships with others, as it eliminates the need to compromise, listen, and grow. That is in essence what Nick's post was about. But we also highlighted a really, really important stat that men between the ages of 18 and 30 are having less sex than previous generations, and 50% of them don't want a relationship. And the nip it in the bud, the reason why, what's causing the trend, in essence, is AI and technology and the ability to have everything that a real life person can have without all of the problem, without the drama, without the questioning. You know, in essence, the AI is your perfect companion, but it isn't a real person. You get where we're going? You get what we're saying? So viewers, if you're watching right now, love that you're here. Emma, I see you. She called me Habibi. I love that. Look at me, Habibi. Sorry. Right. Nick, welcome back. So Liz, Michael, Nick, carrying on from the last episode, what is the first thing that comes to your mind, continuing the conversation? What would you like to start this one with? And I want to go in the order of Nick, Michael, then Liz, please.
Yeah, I guess the way I might start that is, I think the reaction that I got to that post was some people were saying, you know, it's not just about technology, it's also about women's expectations being too high. So let me kind of address that and why I think that's a secondary thing. I think that's real in a sense. I think historically, and I'm talking fairly recently, women by law were, in the UK at least, more or less treated as property. So I mean, women weren't allowed themselves to hold property. They basically, as a husband, you were allowed to do pretty much whatever you wanted with your wife. And that's in the last kind of few hundred years. So really, women were going from a place where they were really treated almost as sort of subhuman. And it took quite a while, as we all know, for them to get the right to vote. And we're now in an era where they're actually sort of demanding equality. And so men have gone from a position where they were up there and sort of women were down there. Well, women are starting to kind of level up. And I think men are experiencing that relatively as a drop in their status, as actually they're now expected to kind of treat their partner more like a human being, as an equal, and they're sort of struggling with that. And that's sort of understandable, because I still think we're sort of emerging from an era where, you know, women are and still are, and some of the language that you hear, men talking about women treated as kind of second-class citizens. So, but why isn't that the core problem? I don't think it is, because I think society changes. If you look historically, society, the role of men and women is different in different societies at different times. There's nothing stopping us changing, except for the fact that we have this alternative. And this is the point that I make. That's what's stopping us changing. That's what's stopping us saying, look, you know, it's tough for guys right now. There's raised expectations on the part of women. We're going to have to change our ways, instead of actually saying, well, but we're going to have to do that. because we want relationships and so on, we're now being offered this kind of cheap, easy alternative. It's like technology in the corner, whispering, say, come on over here, I've got something for you. It's a lot easier and all that. And I think that is why technology is the problem.
Men are more seduced by technology.
Yeah, it's just easy. I think just people just taking the easy route. It's like, why bother planting, potatoes if you can just shout, get me some chips, Alexa. This is the problem, is that people will almost always, it's been throughout history of technology. That's the deal with technology. It offers you an easier life, and it just works its way down the list of things. You don't want to grow vegetables in your garden, fine, we've got a supermarket. Don't want to drive to the supermarket, fine, we've got a little system that will deliver it to your home. I don't want to whatever, vacuum the carpets, that's fine, we'll do it for you.
All them things are very convenient, though. We have to agree. It's just now it's actually impacting our human connection, our relationships with each other. It shouldn't be a problem about having easier groceries or
I know everybody. I don't want to sort of steal thunder, but I think it is partly about convenience, right? Because you grow through challenge. That's the bottom line, is that growth comes through challenge. Growth comes at some kind of cost. If you look back at, your own times in your life when you've grown the most, you might have moved country, you might have come out of a relationship, you might have lost a job. These things are tough. And it's those challenges that push you and cause you to grow. So the easier your life gets, the less you're growing, the less you're learning. It's a really kind of simple dynamic. And technology sort of infantilizes us. Pretty soon we won't need to learn to read or write, because you just talk at it. Pretty soon we'll have some device that translates every language for us instantaneously. So we won't need to learn a language. Did you see where I'm coming from? So yeah, we want easier lives, but every time you make it easier, people grow less and they learn less and they change less.
Yeah. Well said, Nick. No, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming back on that. Yeah. Well said again. Viewers, you want to put in the comments real quick, just a broad question. Are you for AI technology or are you not for AI technology? And I know there's a lot more complexity to it, which we will go into tonight on the episode, but we just want to know and want to hear from you. So feel free to hit it in the comments. Michael, following on from last week.
Yeah, so one of the comments, one of the things you said, Nick, is about the voting. But from the research I've seen, most women didn't even want the right to vote, because it come with big things attached to it, which we had to change, which was to get the right to vote, you had to join the army, or you were open to joining the army, which women didn't want. So we had to change the law on that in order to let them vote, which a lot of them don't want to do because they don't want the responsibility of having to join the army. So we changed it. But AI-wise, I personally don't really use AI for talking to people. I use AI like ChatGPT to help better my life with when I'm writing out essays and stuff like that.
But let's get it right, Michael. You are in a very solid relationship. You and your missus have been together.
Yeah, so I'm probably not in the best position to go against it, because I don't use it. I don't need it. I don't.
How do you use it? I'm really interested. You say you use it, ChatGPT, to better my life. In what ways do you find it useful?
So recently I was doing reviews of people at work. So I put in the parameters of it, and then it put it back out in a more professional manner. So I just put in the core details that I needed, and it rounded the edges of where it wasn't as professional as it should be.
Yeah.
So it made my review seem a lot more professional and make me look more like better as a manager that I can write these reviews.
Yeah, because if I can't do big sums, I will use a calculator.
Yeah.
That is what I will do. It's the same sort of thing, but you're just using it. It's another tool, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Liz, carrying on from last week's episode, AI technology and how it's impacting human connection and relationships moving forward. Obviously, after hearing what Nick's just said, after hearing what Michael's just said, like, what is it that you would like to say?
Just to reiterate, really, that it kind of scares me, and I feel like it will be our demise if we make it part of, which I know it is a part of our lives, but if we make it part of the connection and love side of things, and we're using it, I just feel like that's not good for humanity. I'm not a big fan of it. I understand that everybody in this day and age pretty much has a phone, has technology, uses technology. We use it in our cars, we use it at work, we use it in our everyday lives. But I think there's elements of our lives that we should shut off from it, and we should be more interconnected naturally, humanly, and with least technology involved. So yeah.
So you're not for AI, Liz, or you are for AI?
No,
you're for technology, but you're not for AI. Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, I know we have to use technology. We've got machines. It's life-saving, isn't it? Let's face it. But I also think it is quite damaging. It's a very yin and yang thing, technology, for me. But AI, I just don't feel comfortable with it. I'm just not. It's not drawing me in.
Yeah. It's interesting to hear.
I think it's because I've watched too much Black Mirror, and also, also like films like Her, and which we mentioned last week's episode, the one with Joaquin Phoenix and Scarlett Johansson. It's a very good film, and we can't be in love with robots, and like. I just feel like, for me, I will always want a human being and not a pretend version.
Yes. And this is exactly what the conversation is actually about, because simply put, AI is evolving, whether we like it or not. We think we have to accept the fact that it is actually evolving. But what Nick has brought to the table, which is, for everyone's ears, is the simple reality that when it keeps evolving, that we will now see a big shift in the way that relationships are being developed between real people, men and women, to the point where actually stats are showing that men aren't interested in relationships, whereas before we would be. My granddad has been with my grandma. They were having their 60th wedding anniversary. It was this year. We're having the party soon. It's 60 years. That's a long time to be with the same person. That relationship is solid. There was no checking someone else out on Facebook. There was no alternative. There was no, they developed their relationship. And I guess as time has gone on, we are seeing a big decline in loads of things. That being, most men do not want to get married. Young men do not want to get married because they understand the implications of what could potentially happen through a divorce, things like that. So what I found last episode that we spoke about was, it was like a light bulb moment. Yeah. If you guys, you have to watch that last episode to get where I'm coming from with this. But I summarized that women are in competition with AI. In regards to wanting to build a relationship, Liz, you have so much to offer as a woman. I know you personally, and I believe that every man would see you as a very suitable partner. Yeah, very suitable.
Thank you.
However, as a human, you are not perfect. It is impossible. But AI is. It operates on a 99.9% positive rate. It cannot fail, and if it does,
it's a machine.
It
hasn't got a soul. I've got a soul.
So let's pick up on that if I can. They're really interesting points, and I'll try and come back to them all. So we start with Coconut Kitty.
Yeah.
Do any of you know Coconut Kitty story, right? So this was a woman, I think probably in her mid-20s, who amassed a huge following, I guess, on Instagram, and they're on OnlyFans. And in a sense, she didn't exist, because the reality was that, I mean, she was in great shape, as a 20-something woman, but she'd used a filter on her face to look like a teenager, and she created this hypersexual stimulus. Because what I mean by hypersexual is, you can have the body of a sort of a 20-something-year-old, but then you've got the face of a 20-year-old, or you can have the face of a teenager, but then you've got the body of a teenager. And those two things, don't come together. So she'd use digital to kind of create this, hypersexual being, who didn't really exist in real life. So I know that one of the things that women feel sometimes through the Instagram generation is that they're in a sense competing with other women online. For example, their partners are liking other women's pictures and they feel understandably threatened by that. But I think what you have to realize is that those women in a sense didn't exist, because they were digital recreations or filters or enhancements, and so the first step was to step in and say, I can make sort of other women look much, much better than you. And now the next step, and the point of connection with what you're saying, Chris, is that digital says, I don't even need any real person. I can just create that from scratch, and any imperfections, as you say, will vanish. And so let me just kind of sketch out how this is playing out already. So we've got digital things like Midjourney, DALL-E, systems which will create any kind of image that you want and are starting to create video. So that's one piece of the puzzle, right? Anything you want to see can be seen. Things that are hypersexual in nature, which could not possibly exist in reality, will be offered up, right? Second part of the puzzle is ChatGPT, systems like that learn about you, get to know you, and are being indistinguishable now from a human conversation. In fact, there was some research recently that showed that 80% of people would rather talk to a ChatGPT instance than a real doctor in the case of a consultation. So people are going to hyper sexual kind of imagery, hyper what's the intimate kind of conversational level. And then what's the third part of the puzzle? Well, the third part of the puzzle is Apple is bringing out a VR headset, hopefully by Christmas, that they think will be the killer consumer product. Put it on your head and you've got virtual reality and augmented reality. So you've got all the ingredients to have the perfect companion, saying what you want, looking the way you want, who follows you around and is there with you. It's a bit like Blade Runner's version. I know in her, it was just all over the phone. But this is where it's headed. So today you can have a virtual companion on your phone, and within probably a year you'll have this kind of artificial being. And of course the point is that you won't stand anything to lose. You tell it what you want to say, it learns about you, it checks in every day, it never fails, it's 100% reliable, it does whatever it's told to do. Why is that a bad thing? Well, what's that going to do to men? I think the problem is that kind of expectation will start to leak back into the real world, and I guess it will make it very difficult for them to interact with women, perhaps with other people, in a way which is respectful, which is kind of understanding, where they're sort of listening, if that's effectively what they're kind of being trained on. So I think that's a very real thing to worry about. You might think, if you're listening to this podcast, it's just a bunch of people kind of sounding off. There's a couple of books that are worth kind of reading. There's a guy called Martin Ford who wrote a book a few years ago called Rise of the Robots, talking about the way that AI and robotics is going to combine. And I think I wanted to come back to your point, Mike, because I thought it was really interesting. You were talking about writing leadership reviews. A few years ago, I used to go to conferences. I went to one from the World Economic Forum where they were saying, basically, don't worry about AI and automation because it's just going to take away all the dull roles. And that means, we'll have all the exciting creative roles. And that was completely wrong. It was just utterly wrong. People were saying that for years. They were saying AI and automation will only take over the routine roles. But what's it done? It's taken over graphic design. It's taken music making now. It's going to be taking over kind of filmmaking, coding, code writing. And Martin Ford in his book basically says, look, it's going to take all the jobs. It's not like the Industrial Revolution where, we'll all get better jobs. It's going to take all of the jobs. And what's the implication? So you use that example, Mike, of ChatGPT writing your reviews. Now a company sees that and they think, yay, I can pay people half as much because now I don't have to have experienced leaders with the capability to write reviews. I can just hire, dummies, because basically the AI will do all the heavy lifting. That's exactly what happened, incidentally, with taxi driving. So if you were a London taxi driver, you used to have the knowledge. That was years and years of training, right? It was a struggle. You had to know every route in London. And of course, if you had that knowledge and that capability, you could command a higher salary, right? You introduce an AI bot into the car, sat nav, all of a sudden, any dummy can do it, right? Uber is born. What does that do? It means people's wage is driven down and down and down. So the way that's all headed is AI will do so much more of the complex work that businesses will be able to profit more, because they will just be able to hire and fire people, plug and play, but they'll pay them very little. Be like a gig economy. You get a little bit of work here and there, and that's not going to make life better for people, but it'll make more money for businesses.
And touching on that, I mean, that would have a ripple effect on the education system, because why would you pay for your children to go to a fee-paying school, right? If their degrees, for them to go on to university and their degrees that they're getting to get these sort of leadership roles and, getting paid to deliver these great pieces of writing and architecture and things like that, those jobs are going to be done by AI. So where's the aspiration, inspiration to be well educated and to go and work and give so many years of your life to study to then actually not be able to get the job, which we're often finding even now. There's a lot of students that I know, people that have gone and got degrees and they don't work in their area or even use their degree. They're working in like insurance or something, and it's just like, because they can't actually find the roles to fulfill what they were educated in.
That's such a great example. Let's pick up on that. Lots of people
Yeah.
think about doctors and lawyers.
Yeah.
They are in the crosshairs for AI. Now put yourself in the shoes of a CEO of a company who hires lawyers to give legal advice, whatever it is. I don't care. You've got to hire these expensive people, right? And you're being told this AI system over there is $9.99 a month, and guess what? It gives more accurate legal advice than all of those lawyers you're hiring. You might think, well, I don't really want to fire all these people. And then somebody says, and by the way, all your competitors are going that way. So if you don't go that way, you're out of business. It's it's as simple as that.
I heard someone on a podcast the other day talking literally that. He phoned up his lawyer, who charged like $150 an hour or something. Or it might have been more, but let's say $150 an hour. So he took advice from him on some legal things, and then he put the same questions into ChatGPT, and he got better questions from that, better answers from that, but didn't have to pay for it.
Yeah.
So he's like, so I'm not going to ring my lawyer anymore.
Yeah. And the doctors will go the same way. Diagnosis and a number of areas of medical profession. If you imagine that you're trying to run the NHS and you can't make the numbers work, you just plug AI into the NHS app. That's it. You don't need half as many doctors.
I also think there's the other element to it as well, the ripple effect on the education, which we just touched on, but also the ripple effect on our nature as humans. So like, just everything's convenience and easy now, and computers very much make our lives that, and AI will obviously, like you say, you can just chat to it and get the answer or get the essay, get the wording. And I feel like it's within our nature to venture, to look, to learn, to grow, to take risks, to be challenged. If everything's just easy and at the tap of a button or the tap of our speaking, and becoming less writing and less sort of active and more just shouting something out or asking a computer system, where are we? Where are our minds getting stimulated? Where are we getting that sense of achievement, sense of challenge, sense of adventure, sense of I've found this out, or I've discovered this, I've invented this? We're going to lose all of that, because it's just going to be like our lives are ruled and all literally surrounded by computers. It almost like we're entrapping ourselves in this sort of technological nightmare, really. And I don't want to sound like I'm being negative about technology, because obviously I use it on an everyday basis. We all do. I'd be completely ignorant if I said, oh, I don't use it. I'm using it to talk to you right now. I wouldn't see you guys if I didn't have it. And that's a positive and luxury of this whole invention. But I just feel like I would be more drawn to technology, AI sense, if we didn't lose our sense of humanness.
Can I ask you guys something?
Hmm.
And I have been thinking, and whilst all of you have been speaking, and I've wrote a lot of points, but now there's no need for me to say those because I've spawned a new thought. And my thought is that in regards to what Nick said about AI is taking all the jobs, I do believe that is evolution in itself, because I didn't see anybody with their banners up for Blockbuster when Netflix came in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right? This is our natural progression. Now, in regards to what Michael said with the laws, that does work both ways. You're right. You don't need a lawyer to represent you in court when you can simply have an AI bot listen to both sides of an argument and then come up with what laws were broken and what laws weren't, and therefore giving the judge clear direction on what to pass or what sentence to pass. And I think that's a good thing, because then it stops judges from making wrong judgment. Not that they should, but it just helps. No jury and all them things. Didn't know about Coconut Kitty. That's quite interesting. But well said, Nick. Liz, I get you. I totally do get you about the education system and how it could be, well, it's just everything's sort of looking like it can go all downhill. But I do want to highlight, we did have a 2-year pandemic when everybody got the opportunity to breathe. Didn't have to work because no one was working. In actual fact, the system ran quite well. In actual fact, things were just getting done that needed to get done. Key workers, in essence, everything was fine. So as much as films have portrayed a future where AI is taking over and causing everyone doom and gloom, especially in the form of Terminator or Matrix or whatever, I don't see it like that. I see it as an opportunity for human connection to be more. We could actually have a lifetime of lockdowns, not lockdowns in sense, but a lifetime of what it was when we went through lockdown, simply because AI can do everything else.
But
Imagine if
that's
we
not
didn't.
that's
Yeah.
not that's not actually in our nature.
Hear me out, Liz, because it can be done, as it has been proven in the past. Like, we can do the human connection that lockdowns provided. It gave
It's not the
nothing
same
but
as touch and
Yeah.
sensory, though, is it? It's not the same as.
You're misunderstanding me, Liz.
Oh.
You still went to see people. You
Yeah.
still got, like, because there is no pandemic, there is no global pandemic. Forget COVID. Eliminate COVID. Let's just imagine now that we just have the same lifestyle that we had during lockdown. You had all the time in the world to actually do what you wanted to do, spend time with your family, and not have to worry about much at all because everything else was taken care of. I believe that we could be stepping into our future, which is, due to the birth of AI being so brilliant, we could, as human race, actually just live out our lives being natural and free again. And it may actually stimulate connection that we so need.
I'm skeptical. I'll get a couple of stories. So I remember the birth of Twitter, and everybody thought, or at least there were a lot of people who thought this is awesome, because this will allow everybody to understand everybody else's perspective. It would be this great kind of digital commons. Didn't really work out that way. People broke down and broke up into their little factions, started arguing. If you go on Twitter, people often describe it as kind of toxic, people just looking to find their little bubble of people who agree with them, and becoming increasing. There's a book called Grandstanding, which is really interesting if you're interested in that phenomenon. On digital, basically, where you might be polite to somebody in the street, on digital there's no incentive to be polite, basically. So people just become more and more radicalized in their views and more offensive, frankly, until
Bless you.
so that was interesting. The other interesting thing I thought was during lockdown, do you remember House Party?
Mhm.
A whole bunch of us installed House Party. We thought this is going to be fine. We're all just going to party away digitally. We installed this thing. We had to go. It sucked. Man, did it suck.
It did. It was
And
awful.
it was just like another sodding Zoom meeting at the end of the day. I think we all realised that digital couldn't replace, the face-to-face. Yeah, the physical. But at the same time, I think a lot of people, that was partly the success of TikTok. TikTok sort of rose during the pandemic. I love TikTok, as you can imagine. A lot of my generation just think it's kids doing dancing. But one thing I've noticed about it is it's really great at just feeding you excitement. You get hit, and it hones in on what is interesting and exciting. And I think it's quite addictive, as people have noticed. And that, I think, is part of the seductiveness of technology, is you can figure out what you like, and you don't have to work for it. Just keeps feeding it to you. And I think that is the problem, is that in real life you have to work for some of those kind of hits, if you like, whereas with AI we'll just say whatever you want, you can have it right now. And I think that's
Quick
that's
question: Can you see my vision though of what I explained, or was I?
I think so. I think you're saying basically this is a kind of utopian vision where, AI basically takes away all the struggles, and we're just sort of
Robots will robots will run factories like
Yeah.
hydroponic factories as well, which is, for those that don't know, artificial conditions to raise crops, not just on a level field of land, but actually upwards. So we could have big factories of crops being grown vertically, not just on a farm. So therefore we have more food, right? Because we're using it's genius. Look up hydroponics. It's awesome. So that's food sorted, especially if a robot can do it, all sorted out, right? That's food. We don't have to worry about that. That's done. Then we're talking about going out and exploring. No problem. You got, like, during lockdowns, or during the pandemic, you had all of the freedom to go and do that without the pressure of what we're currently back in the cycle of, which is the 9-to-5 grind. People are trying so hard now to re-establish what they felt during that freedom, that period of freedom. But if AI can take away the need to have to be a lawyer, have to be a doctor, have to be a teacher, have to be a taxi driver, you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, but let me give 2 examples.
But is it right?
Sorry, hear me out.
Yeah.
What can you spend the rest of your life doing, living out to the fullest? Human connection, because that is the only thing that will be left.
So let me give you 2 examples, right, in that world. So you might want to, you said exploring, so you might want to go to the Amazon rainforest, right? Super expensive to do. You're not going to have much by way of income, probably on universal basic income in that world. And so super tough actually to travel there. It's actually quite difficult.
But why would you need to pay? You wouldn't need to pay, because normally if you had to pay, it'd be for the train driver to pay his wage, but he doesn't need to work, because we have AI driving the train. This is my point.
But we don't live in the world where it would be free. They will monetize AI. They will monetize AI like they monetize everything. So it may be AI driving the train, but we will still have to be paying a huge price to get on that train.
But let me give another example, because I know
what I'm talking about might seem a bit out there, and it might seem like it will never happen because people want to monetize all the time. I would like to.
It's not all about money. Think about this example, right? Because this is the challenge. The real world always pushes back. This is like the real world always pushes back. That's how you know it's real, right? So think about a date. So that's not about money. It's not about commercialization. Think about date. So a guy, will he go on a date? Well, for a young man, it's terrifying going on a date. He's got the fear of rejection. Even if he's successful, he's got to negotiate a number of kind of hurdles. He's got to understand the other person. There's always a risk attached to it. Let's say he gets married. I think you made this point last time, Mike. There's significant risk attached then if you're married to losing and what you lose through that. But that's an incentive for you to work at the relationship, right? Because you have to flex, you have to change, you have to compromise, you have to understand the other person. And so going on a date, hugely threatening in terms of your self-esteem, really difficult. Sometimes you won't know what you're going to talk about, what to say, and then there's a whole building up a relationship and all of the differences that go into that point, and then getting married and the risk. Why? When you can have everything that you want effectively digitally at home. So setting aside the money issue, which knows you're driving at, Chris, it's still, the real world is always tougher than what digital offers.
I also believe that most people believe they have 99 problems and money would solve about 80 of them. So if we did live in a world where you didn't have to do things for money, eliminate that completely due to AI technology and how beautifully it can actually give us all the benefits that we need to survive and thrive as a race, you only have to focus on the other problems, which is normal. As a human being, these are normal problems, and you can use your time to focus on them. I believe it will create better human connections. I want to believe that, and most people will be like, no, it's doom and gloom. Have you not seen the films? Have you not thinking? I'm like, well, have you ever thought about this from a different perspective? And that's exactly what we're about at the Elite Thinking Club. And I'm just being that person that's posting this different perspective, because I didn't see it before, but I'm starting to see it now.
I'm hopeful that it goes that way.
I think if we implement it properly, it will be very good. So I see someone the other day on a YouTube video in a particular state in America. they've got a self-driving car, like completely self-driving. And so all you got to do, you book it like an Uber, and it will literally pull up. There's nobody driving. It's all done by LiDAR. And she spent the whole day in the car, being driven around. It was stopping for pedestrians, stopping for cars. It looked amazing. So we get to a point that we can use these cars. Nobody will have to drive again. There'll be no more accidental crashes because people are falling asleep, like just pulling out for no reason, like when you shouldn't do. So as long as we implement it properly, life will be amazing with AI.
Yeah. So let's take that example. That's really interesting. So two things. First off, nobody needs to learn how to drive anymore. Notice that's always the transaction with technology. That it always takes away your need to learn. And the second thing is all of the drivers are out of a job. That's fine, because there's a catch-22, which is if everybody's out of a job, which is the prediction, the problem is for the capitalists, right? The people wanting to make the money, who's going to pay for the products? So everyone's out of a job, nobody's going to pay for anything, right? So that's a problem. How do you solve that problem? Well, there's a few economists thinking about that. Universal basic income basically looks like the way it's likely to go, which is because nobody's got a job, but you still want people to buy the products. You basically just give everybody some money monthly, and that keeps the wheels spinning, right? So, so imagine that's the picture now. All of the work, as you say, Chris, is being done by AI and automation. Everybody gets a standard amount of money to spend each month. That might be the picture.
If you were given the opportunity to have all of your needs met, basic needs, and I say basic needs like your shelter, your food, electric, power, access to the internet, and it makes sense that you shouldn't really need for more. The issue would be people, what they've become because of capitalism is consumers. People have become consumers simply because they have addictions and they have these needs, not natural human needs. You've developed this addiction, you've developed these needs to be a consumer. If we manage to, if you will, heal everyone, by the time this is all implemented, people would actually say, you know what, I was actually sick and tired of eating the crap. I'm very, very grateful that I get given enough food to live forever. We've already talked about, well, I just mentioned hydroponics, but you can have an abundance of all of the fruits and vegetables you need. You can. We know that. Like, I know there's a lot of people who are in resistance to change, and I totally understand the reason why. It's because you've been conditioned to not see any other way. But once the lifestyle is forced upon you, I can only see it being a good thing. If it is the evolution of human race, it is what we do as a race. When extinction is when we're on the brink of extinction, we are catapulted into evolution. And I actually see AI as our savior. I don't see it as the new oppressor, as most.
I think change is a great thing, and naturally we should, like you say, because that's part of evolving. But I just think with AI, like Michael said, if we do it right and properly, I think it would benefit humanity. However, I just worry that it takes away our humanness. That's there's so many perks to it, there's so many benefits to it, but also I think that there are elements of our lives that we should have. It should be hard. We should learn through struggle. We should have elements that teach us and that give us what a computer can't.
Can I ask you something, Liz? Do you know why your human connection or humanness cannot be replaced? Because you are human.
Exactly.
So let me say it again. When it's too easy for people who live in the current conditions to do exactly what Nick has highlighted in his TikTok post, which I do agree with. In the current conditions, in the current climate, people are seeking the alternative through AI because it is like a coping mechanism with the current situation, the current climate. Once that is overcome, once the conditions are better, once the climate has changed, once we have pushed past this need for an AI to fill the gap, people will tap back into what we are, which is human. So everything that you're saying that we are and that we require and what we need, we will revert back to what it is that makes us, because we no longer need to live in a climate or conditions that make us seek the alternative.
Well, let me give you an example though, because I'm skeptical. I like to believe mystic vision, but in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy by Douglas Adams, he talks about this thing called a babel fish, this hypothetical kind of fish. You stick it in your ear, and it instantly gives you the ability to understand and speak in any language. And we're pretty much there. We're very close to having a device basically which instantly in real time translates anything from any language, and a little speaker attached which as you speak will translate it back into any other language. Who would learn another language when we all have our digital babel fishes? Who would bother to invest the time when it's just so much easier to have the little device? So I think it's about, I think Liz is right. It's about people not always choosing the easy path, and technology is always, that's its seductiveness really, and who doesn't want an easier life, right?
There is a universal language that we all do speak. It's sign language, and I understand why that hasn't been law around the world, that every young person should be learning sign language. Therefore it would eliminate the language barrier. We've said this in a previous episode. However, if there is a language barrier, again, it does revert back to the basics. I was a soldier, went to Afghanistan, didn't speak very good Afghan. I didn't really speak that. I didn't really learn the language too well, apart from, assalamu alaikum. You know what I'm saying? That's hello. Malaikum salam. Good to see you too. That's it. That's all I really knew. A few basics, like dresh meant stop and whatever. But what it always boiled down to was a basic human interaction, smiles, facial recognition. You just build this energy, build this rapport, and you start doing basic things like water. You say, do you want a drink? Do you want water and stuff like that? And if you did a sign language that did offend, I didn't know this, but we got taught this very quickly. A thumbs up in that side of the world is like a middle finger on this side of the world. So you don't do thumbs up, but you soon learn that. You quickly learn that. So I don't think the language barrier is going to be a problem at all. Human connection, human interaction, we have it naturally.
Yeah, I mean, I love to learn, Nick. So I think that I wouldn't want that that easiness, or that the seductiveness of the easiness to take away my natural want and right really to learn for myself, not using AI. I want to learn myself. Like when we teach children to stand up and they're taking their first steps and everything, we have to let them fall to get their balance, right? We have to, when we climb a tree, we go so far up the branches, but we have to learn ourselves how far we can go, if the branch is going to take our weight and snap. I don't want a computer kind of taking away, or myself not even realizing that that I'm allowing it to take away those natural human elements of learning and being human. I wouldn't want that. I wouldn't want to lose that. So if I could
Liz,
keep
explain to me how an AI computer is going to teach a child to walk.
What I'm saying is I'm going on the learning element. So where I was saying about the languages.
Sorry to interrupt again. I just want to make a definite point here that what you've highlighted, I believe, is a different thing to what you're meaning. You're telling me that an AI technology is going to take away your human connection in teaching a child how to walk, or teaching a child how to ride a bike, or teaching a child how to swim. Exactly. So your connection will still be there with all of those things that we naturally want to learn as humans. All the other stuff that is way above us, just cognitive function, like we have to learn learn to speak a language, that is only going to aid it. It isn't going to take
I get that, but what I'm saying is where we have, like what Nick was saying, where we can hook up to this device, say the words, and then it says whatever, basically translate it for us. It does take away that element of where you sit and practice, and where like when we're at school, we've got the textbooks, we're actually reading and learning instead of asking a computer to do it for us. We're taking that element away. Whereas, and that to me is the natural humanness of, I like to get, we all find studying hard and learning hard, we all want it to be easy and just get full marks, but we don't get the actual true human feeling and achievement and actual learning if we don't do it ourselves. That's what I'm trying to say. So
Yeah.
We've already got
I mean,
the
it's-
translation thing.
yeah, where
We've already got the translation thing. Samsung Buds and Google Buds both do the translation thing.
yeah,
We've already got that.
yeah, no, I know we've already got that, but my point is, like, when kids at school are learning languages, they're not actually learning it when they're typing it in and getting it translated. They're learning it when they're reading it and sitting there and vocalizing it and saying, oh, Mum, can you help me with this? I need to learn these sentences. I'll say it, I'll practice it, you tell me if I'm getting it wrong. Can you speak back to me? That to me, a computer just gives you the answers. Where does it take away the development bit? It does.
We've got to take responsibility for that. We've got to take responsibility for it. So if you've got two choices. You can either write something down on a computer and get it to tell you the answer, or you can do it yourself.
Yeah,
it's your choice whether.
But that's what I'm saying. I feel like
lazy. If you want to take the lazy way of doing it and use a computer, that is on you.
Yes.
That is
but
AI. Correct.
I think we are all sort of inherently lazy. I mean, who still churns butter?
Exactly.
Do any of us churn butter?
Whoa.
You can go to the supermarket.
Nick, sorry, mate. You carry on, and I'm gonna be the next one to say something on this. Yeah, 100%.
So, I mean, there's already a thing where you can say, I want to hear "Call Me Maybe" sung by Kanye West, and it will do that for you. And that's a short step, probably months away from being able to say, write me a song, 3 months that's 3 minutes long with lyrics that talk about, love and loss. And I want it to be a mashup of, I don't know, Bob Marley and Shania Twain, and it will do that. And it's like, well, yeah, but who would want to learn an instrument? You know how difficult it is? It's just like, who would want to put the hours in when the person over there who just says, and it will be better. I promise you it will be better every time.
I'm 99% sure you can already do that.
I'm sure you're right, Mike. The only satisfaction is, the effort you put in. I mean, it won't. You can't say, but it will be better quality at the end of the day. That just before I hand back to you, Chris, because I know you want to come in. There's a story. I don't think anyone reads anymore, so I feel like an idiot even just recommending this stuff. But there's a story by E.M. Forster called "The Machine Stops." A short story. The machine stops. It's all about what the world would be like when we don't have to do anything anymore because the machine does it. It's all about human relations and what that will do to them. And this was written, a long time ago, decades ago. So it's a very real thing that's kind of happening around us. And I think Liz is right. Unless each individual makes a decision, you said not to be lazy, but we're all lazy in different kind of ways. To actually actively fight it, it's like a tidal wave. It will just overtake us all, I think.
That's what I was trying to say, but you simplified it. Thank you, Nick.
I don't disagree with what you are saying. I honestly believe, though, you are trying to put it in the same box. It isn't the same box. I grow plants from seed.
Yeah.
Right. An AI robot cannot do that for me because I choose to do it for myself.
Mm-hmm.
I learn the plant. I learn the process. I am doing the process because I want to do it. It's very enjoyable. When it comes to reading books, I read books, but my inability to read would be my inability to currently use AI technology. Now, I'm not a very good mathematician. I've highlighted this in the past. I will use a calculator to do big sums. And you're right, Nick, we are lazy to a degree. I could sit there and try and learn how to do incredible math, but I won't because I do have a calculator. So I agree with what you're saying because in essence, we are all lazy to some degree, but I also have to disagree that AI will get in the way of our human ability to want to do things for ourselves. There may be those out there who want to be like the film from Disney with the robot. That might be how they want to be. It definitely ain't going to be how all of us want to be. If you have a child and you want to teach your child to ride a bike, I 100% confidently say that most people will use their time to teach their child how to ride a bike, how to climb a tree, how to swim. And if you want to learn how to speak another language, I believe that it's actually going to help speed up the process in your learning using AI. You will put the hours in, the time it takes for the human brain to actually develop the skill. but it is going to be a lot slower without AI. Trying to learn it from another human being isn't going to be easy. Learning it from a robot, learning it from an app. What's the apps now that teach you at the moment?
Do you know what? I just Googled that percentage of people who know how to ride a bike over the last decades, and it's going like that.
Because you get electric scooters and the kids just jump on them instead of getting bikes.
You don't need to. You used to have to go around your friend's house. Now you can call them.
Yeah.
Right? You kind of, or you can meet in virtual reality. It's like
More.
there was all over the place. Nobody does it now.
Yeah, but the thing is, that's like me saying, that's like me. I know how to ride a bike, but I still drive a car. It's not that the kids, it's not that it's declining because of electric scooters. It's simply because they.
No, but they're saying that more kids have iPhones now than bikes. Instead of asking for a bike for their birthday, they ask for iPhones.
But why is that? Because it gives them access to learn more things that they are more interested in. I wouldn't say it's right or wrong. I'm just highlighting that one day they may get to adulthood.
I do think
may get to adulthood and they might say, you know what, I actually haven't ridden a bike before. I'm going to give that a go. Good for you. Because at the end of the day, you didn't have to do it in your childhood like traditional people would have liked.
Yeah.
You just do it in your adulthood. I don't know how to play piano yet. I'm 35 years old, but at some point in my life, I may want to do that. And if there are older generations looking down on me saying, you know what I mean? Look at his kid wasting his life away. They haven't had to play piano yet. Bloody hell. I only learned the Rubik's Cube at 26. That was around at 8 years old. I was staring at that same thing like, bloody hell, I'm never going to learn this. Got to 26 and I thought, you know what? I'm going to do it.
The beauty of this conversation, I'm so glad that
you're never too old to learn.
Taking this sort of opposite view, because that's what the debate needs. I think is we will see in our lifetimes, we'll see the experiment play out. My guessing is there will still be people in the future who know how to ride a bike. There will still be people who know how to drive a car, but they'll, instead of being, 70% of people, there'll be like 1 in 100. I think pretty soon there'll be like 1 in 100 people who know how to write, because, at the moment, even in my lifetime, I used to write papers, long essays, and when I was at the BBC, we used to have to write a paper. If you wanted to do something, you have to write this paper. That now all of a sudden, by the time I was at VP, it was like 3 slides with pictures on them. That the ability to write is just going down and down, and as AI becomes more voice, interactive based, you'll just speak to the technology and it'll speak back to you. We're pretty much there, and the ability to write will be a really niche thing, like the ability to do, I don't know, integral calculus. Somebody might learn how to do it, but I think it will be like 1 in 100, 1 in 1,000, 1 in a million, because it'll only be the people who are passionate about that thing, because most people just won't be challenged to do it.
You see it now on TikTok, traditional Japanese, Chinese men still making old pots and that. But this is what's marveled. This is the beautiful thing, because if you do find yourself as that one individual who is still able to do things of old, people will admire you for it. People will still acknowledge you for it.
You can say, create me a 3-minute or 30-second video of an old Japanese bloke doing, and the AI just auto generates that, because that's sort of where it heads. You're saying that sort of stuff still has traction as content, but what happens when somebody can just say, show me a bloke of a 90-year-old on a unicycle balancing 4 cans of lager on his nose, and the AI just generates it. Nobody has to learn how to do that.
I just honestly feel that when we do get to where we need to get to, as AI helps us in our evolution, it will take away the problems that have created this current situation. The disparity in human beings, the disconnection in human beings, the consumerism of human beings, the capitalism mindset, all of that has been, if you will, a symptom of a wrong way to live. Now, with AI coming in, it's going to literally alleviate all of them. It's going to nip the symptom. It's going to heal us. And once the healing is done, we will then, like we did during lockdowns and during that pandemic, acknowledge what it is our hearts truly call for, which is a bit of freedom.
I hope that is a beautiful vision.
Slow down the pace of life, and our human connection will be reestablished like it was during that time.
I love that vision. As a counterpoint to that, there's a Sam Harris TED Talks. He's a neuroscientist. He's got a podcast you may have heard of. He talks about the threat of AI. Your background, Chris, is military. He says, from a military perspective, if another country has an AI that is 6 months ahead of you, that's effectively thousands of years ahead of you, because an AI that even just 6 months more advanced can wipe you off the map. So he said the real danger is it's now an AI arms race, because if you learn that another country, you know, has got, or potentially has the potential to have a super intelligent AI, you know, you're dead. So you have to strike first. So
which effectively was like the Terminator kind of thing.
That is a fear, and that is also, in my opinion, any man who is a military man knows that in order for peace, you must prepare for war, but the aim is peace. That is true, and I don't believe that you should go at it with the mindset, if this is what you're saying. He said that we need to be above everybody else to assert the dominance, or assert, because then you're creating the cauldron of disaster. You don't want that.
Have a look at the talk. It's a brilliant talk. It's really short. Sam Harris knows his stuff.
Is he the one that talked to Joe Rogan?
Yeah, I think he's talked to pretty much everybody at some point.
Okay.
But yes, on the TED site.
Well, I've got a couple of things to look to, Nick, because you've said Rise of the Robots by Martin Ford and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Who's that by?
And
Douglas Adams,
and the Machine
Stops, short story. And Sam Harris's talk, I think it's entitled, just looking at it now, Can We Build AI Without Losing Control Over It, I think.
Now, just a quick one. Is there anyone out there who wrote books on what I highlighted, the potential of the positive of AI, all these things about the things AI, like, you know, because that's the thing about the narrative with AI, so much energy, and it's almost like we now know about spiritual healers and shamans, but if you go back to like the medieval times, they were known as witches, and everyone was hanging them and burning them, and it's just like, you know, did anyone at any point just kind of think maybe they were onto something?
I think AI is going to be one of those things, isn't it? Like, we're going to have to kind of do it, go through it, to kind of get to the other side of it and see the true positives and also feel the negatives. But that's where it's a little bit like, it's one of these things that it's a massive thing for humanity, AI. So it's just, for me, it's just a little bit, gives me a little bit of anxiety, because I just think the negatives could possibly outweigh the positives.
All the possibilities that could
be. But I'm not saying I'm not, you know, we're going to go that way because we're already there. Like you say, Michael, you know, we've already got some of these things we've been discussing in place. So I just don't want us to lose our humanness and our humanity, because that will affect humanity. So
don't worry,
I think the people
will still be able to ride.
I think the people that believe in it. So instead of writing books, the people that believe in it are doing stuff. Like if Apple are bringing out all this other stuff with VR in it, they're just doing it. GPT are just doing it. They're not writing books about it. They're just doing it.
Yeah.
So these are the ones that have seen it as positive.
Yeah.
But while I'm talking, we did get a YouTube comment from a Laura saying, I'm a part of a new, unique international IT AI company about to launch globally, who plans to be the correction to the corruption and greed of large corporations and spread more of the wealth among the people.
Yes.
Yay, Laura! Thank you.
This is the point. This is the point I'm trying to highlight here. When it came to about the lawyers and the need for capitalism and all this AI has the ability to save humanity.
I hope so.
And I really, really, like, it's like films on, like, we don't want to go too deep into it. I know we're getting close to the end of the episode now, but if you can train enough people to see something a negative way, they will only see it that way.
Yeah.
So, you know, conditioning from movies and books and scripts, I don't get me wrong, I love people's ideas, but when it's constantly about that is the only way it can be seen, it isn't the only way it can be seen.
Yeah, no, that's very true.
You know
there's always balance, isn't there? Or there should always be balance in things. And that's why I'm saying, I think that we're not really going to know until we kind of implement it more and go through it. But I'm just a little bit like,
I'm not trying to like poo-poo this, because what I'm saying is what Nick said in his TikTok is a fact though. And the trend has spawned from AI and what it currently is. So what I was going on is what I believe it's going to be. But what it currently is at the moment, which, you know, a lot of people don't like the idea about, is how it currently is creating disconnection with humans. But I believe once this thing takes its full flowering, then it will, the last thing to grow on a fruit tree is the fruit.
Yeah. So Nick, can I just ask quickly, do you see it being a positive in the future for relationships? Because how it stands at the moment, where you've obviously highlighted how men aren't wanting to really get into relationships and the effect it's kind of having. So do you think it's going to kind of go round in a full circle? So guys are going to kind of use it, and it's going to have a huge effect. They're not going to be able to really connect with women, and then they're going to kind of break out of it and realize it doesn't work, that they've got to try and connect with women. What do you?
No, I think it was sort of game over for relationships. I think by the end of next year, the vast majority will be hooked on some sort of virtual, kind of relationship.
Oh gosh.
And I don't really see any coming back from that. The only way you could see a way out of it is if AI was actually used to train people, young men particularly, early on, and actually was constantly correcting them, picking them up and say, you can't say that. It would be kind of like an argumentative AI. You're rude, that comment's offensive, that kind of thing. But we haven't really seen much of that in AI. We haven't seen AI which is designed to give you a hard time, give you feedback that you need to say things you need to hear. So that would be I guess the way to do that. But I think it will be super seductive within, as I say, by the end of next year. I think it's going to be a whole new kettle of fish.
Right.
I do love that, Nick, actually, what you just said there. Very true.
But on the other hand of that, like say if you have 10 gentlemen and 6 of them are seduced by AI, 4 of them aren't really bothered by AI and rather would go for an actual person. Surely those 4 people would be a better catch than those 6 people that are stuck on AI.
Yeah,
so
I think
all it's going to do is make those 4 people the stronger ones, and if only the strong survive, then the other 6 off.
Yeah, because the stats were 30% of men aren't having sex. That means 70% are, and 50% don't want relationships, but that means 50% do. So yeah, Michael, you're not wrong.
I think that's problematic because we haven't really talked about women and AI, so it's been quite sort of androcentric in that sense. But I think then it'll be more like 1%. So let's say 1% of men are still in the dating pool. The problem that Jordan Peterson was pointing out to is that they now rule the world. They're completely Machiavellian because they can have the pick of any women because they're the only guys on the market, and that makes them just commoditize women, and that's not great either because they just think, well, I'm the only guy, I'm the only option, you're going to have to compete for me. It's just kind of a weird position to put women in, which is what Tinder's done effectively. And that's partly because from a woman's standpoint, it's like a massive window shopping exercise where, you're not going to settle because you can see this amazing 10 out of 10 looking guy who drives a Ferrari and, is an author and a poet and a billionaire or whatever. And you're going to think, well, why would I settle for that if I could go for this guy? So the top 10% are getting all the interactions. And as JP says, it's just turning them into monsters, kind of.
Well, I think women have to take responsibility in accepting that you won't get the 1% if you're not the 1%. You can't have double standards, and I think society has to accept that now. Men accept that. We do accept that. Like,
I think there's a higher rate of men that
caliber matches caliber at the end of the day, and you have to have a long, hard look at yourself at the end of the day. If you're not achieving what you want to achieve, it's down to you to make the changes. It's no one else. You can't blame the rest of the world for something you're not achieving. And you have to break a man to make a man. I believe that when they reach that point where they really do have to have that hard, long look in the mirror, see the reality, see what's going on in the world, and accept that maybe they do need to change, only then will they choose to heal. If not, stay in your bedroom all day and have a VR girlfriend. Go ahead. That's how you want to live. That's how you want to live. But then don't start hating on the rest of the world, because you get what I mean? But Nick, I just want to say, I really love having you as a guest on our show. Liz, Michael, in it, having Nick.
Great energy, Nick.
Yeah, man. Like
Thanks.
the fact that we wanted to do part 1 and part 2 with you, like, it's because honestly, you're just a great guest to have, and especially talking about something that I feel like a lot of people should pay a lot more attention to, but also have a broader perspective on. Like, I love that, Michael, you're at where you're at with AI. I love that, Liz, you're at where you're at with AI, and I love that Nick, you have a really good grasp on what could potentially happen with AI, but not only just because of your thinking it, but because you actually see the trends. You get what I mean?
Mm.
And I know a lot of the viewers watching will probably watch this back and make their own views and assumptions on it. I obviously am a very optimistic person, and I do believe in a lot more than just because I've seen it on a film or just because I've seen it on that. There's no other options. I do like to think that potentially there are other options, but what are those other options? So that's the only place where I was coming from. But yeah. We will have to wait and see.
Has to be looked at objectively, doesn't it? It's
I mean,
a huge
thank
thing.
you. But it's an absolute pleasure to talk with you all. You create this amazing kind of space. You create a conversation and accept different viewpoints and challenge, and that makes you kind of role models, really. And so it's a privilege to be part of that process. I hope people do watch, and if they don't necessarily, take one point of view or another, they at least see the way that people can interact around this, and it doesn't all have to be adversarial and people yelling at each other. That would be something.
Thanks, Nick. That's really that's literally what Jules created and wanted to have from the start. So,
Michael, Liz, and Nick, is there anything else you guys want to add to tonight's episode for the viewers and before we leave?
No.
Stay human. Stay human.
Stay human. Yeah.
Give AI a chance. And also, don't be so lazy with it. Don't be so lazy. Like AI, like I said, AI, I believe, can be very good as long as you take it for what it's been. Yeah, take it for what it's been created for. It's to make our lives easier,
better.
But don't rest on it completely. So, like when I was talking about using it earlier, I started the work. It saved me time.
Yeah.
Because I had other things to do. I had a store to run, so I had to go run the store, but I had to do these reviews. So instead of spending 30, 40 minutes on it, I spent 10 minutes on it. Got a good review out, and then I was back out running the store, which is what I'm paid to do.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully not for too long, Michael. Hopefully we will have systems in place where nobody really has to work. We could potentially just focus on the things that we want to do. Raise your children, spend time with your elderly, like go out and enjoy the world, the physical world. And then, if you want to stay at home and live in the virtual, then fine, because, you're a bit afraid of the physical. But, at the end of the day, at some point, you may find yourself getting fed up of the virtual and really scream again with your heart for that connection for humanity, and then we'll all go back outside again. Yeah.
I mean, I don't want it to go that far.
we'll have to see. Right, I'm gonna have to say, viewers, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and if you haven't done so already and you've watched the episode this far, you should definitely hit that like button and hit that subscribe button for future episodes with the Elite Thinking Club, where we will have plenty more conversations like this one to get our teeth amongst and chew and process and just grow some more. Nick, thank you so much for joining us again. Honestly, my friend, you are always welcome here at the Elite Thinking Club, and no doubt I will probably message you and invite you back later on down the line so we can continue the conversation and see where we're at.
Yeah, love that.
It would be
in Bracknell Way. Then give us a shout.
All right. Yeah. Liz, Michael, thank you so much for being here again. You guys know I love you guys. You're my yin and my yang. You keep me grounded and together with it all. And I love you. All right, everyone everywhere, thank you so much. We are the Elite Thinking Club. Peace and love.
Peace and love.